All right, welcome to Pass the Mic. It is Friday, January 16th, episode 192. Mike Gervasi, how are you on this a
I'm
surprising
great.
snow day?
Surprising snow day. It came down much more than we thought. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Miss Fournier and I were just talking yesterday. We just mentioned how there hasn't been a day in a while. And and this weather was predicted, and I'm like, well, we don't have one, nothing looked big on the horizon. And then the weather people admit, I tweeted at, or X'd, I still say tweet, at Paul Gross, retired Channel 4 weatherman, he actually interacts pretty well on there. I'll usually tweet at him when I have tickets for like a Tiger game or something that's outside and the weather's questionable. He's really good he'll answer people. He'll be like,
Really?
I think the game will be able to go, or this or that. So last night I sort of replied to one of his things and said, hey dude, when's this stopping? It was supposed to be half an inch. And he quoted me and replied and said something like, I thought there'd be some, lake effect snow, but it was messed up. They didn't see it coming. And that's from everything I'm seeing today is they missed this. It shifted south. None of the models had this happening. So,
Well, yeah, it came out of nowhere, and man, it was. Did you go out at all last night for any reason?
early in the storm, I went out right after work. My wife she's like, it looks bad. Why don't you go out and get something to eat for us right now? Because we cooked the last couple of days. So ran out to Piper's up on Telegraph, got some food. And it was okay. I have a truck now. Didn't even need to use the 4-wheel drive. And but by the end of the night it was bad. So
Yeah, it was. I went out and shoveled late last night, and it was, man, it was so cold. I am usually fine with it being cold. I'd bundle up enough that, man, I wasn't even cold. I had to come back in. This is not. I can't remember a time that's happened. It was rough last night.
we missed a week. The last week got away from us a little bit. It's funny, we recorded over the break both weeks, but our first week back to work, and in fairness, you had 3 games last week, 3 basketball games.
Three basketball
I
games,
had
yeah.
a game that I didn't have a game to work, but 3 games. By the time it got to it, the only day we could go was Thursday, and it sort of and then I was having something, I was picking up part of my having my truck bed put on. So we just said we couldn't do it. Fans, thank you for understanding. Um, so feedback and errors over the last 2 weeks. The Ren Dog did have quite a bit to say, texted me, and has been texting a lot. Of course, we went from the highs of the Steelers beating the Ravens and winning the AFC North, and then I did not watch either game, night games, and was excited when I woke up one morning, and not terribly surprised the next one that they lost to Houston. Houston has a very good defense, and the Steelers are just who they are. They were older, and the offense just wasn't that good. But he gave us feedback on that. He's been texting us. He texted me because Arthur Smith, out of work, Steelers offensive coordinator, I guess, is interviewing with the Lions, and asked me what my thoughts were on that. And I actually thought he's pretty good. You know who he's related to, don't you?
No, I do not.
He's the son or grandson, maybe the son of the guy that owns the Falcons, in Home
Oh,
Depot.
wow. Okay. I did not know that.
And he's low, like he doesn't need to work.
Right.
But he just loves this. And he seemed like I had no problem with him in Pittsburgh. With the hands he was dealt, I think he did pretty well. 43-year-old quarterback, retread running back from the Jets, no wide receivers. I think he'd be good. He blew, he'll be all right.
Well, and we'll see what happens with Mike McDaniel. That's if we get him, you're going to plan the parade.
Well, yeah. Michigan football is playing the parade. I guess they signed the best tight end in the world. That was in the transfer portal. So I guess they're going to win the college national championship. The Wings are going to win the Stanley Cup. Based upon what I'm hearing here. So yeah, Mike McDaniel for sure. The Lions are. Why even play the regular season and a fourth place schedule? It's over.
There is that too. In terms of my feedback, I shout out to Antoine, who credited me with acknowledging that I was a little too excited about Miami's victory over Ohio State. Now, I ran into Joe Burguy right after, frequent listener, a couple of Ohio State fans that I are not listeners, so I won't acknowledge them, but I was excited, and probably too excited. As you mentioned, Michigan fans have become what they despise.
Yep.
I'm
Which
self-aware enough to admit.
I don't have a problem doing it. You can do that. That's fine. Like I don't care. Getting joy and watching your team you don't like losing is fine, but don't act like you're above it and like we don't do this now.
Yeah, of
It's
course,
fine.
of course.
Accept it and do it.
Yeah.
That's fine. State fans have been doing it for years. They love when Michigan loses. that's fine. But now Michigan fans can't look down on those same state fans. Like
Sure.
you're doing it too. That was my point
Correct.
of all that.
The other thing I want to give a shout out, a former guest on Pass the Mic, Bryce Gresham,
Yeah,
did work the women's basketball game for the Big Ten Network, right?
yeah,
Bryce, so if you're listening and you're on the bigger and better things, so I doubt you're listening to a local podcast, but if you are, congratulations to anybody that's a friend of Bryce Gresham or the family. You know, Mrs. Gresham's a teacher at Shoemate, Allie Gresham, senior at Carlson High School, who is headed to University of Michigan. You
yeah.
know,
Not to
congrats.
violate FERPA,
Not to
accepted
violate
the.
from, yeah, you're right, you're right. But yeah, that was really cool. He sent me a video of it, and it's just he is so young. He graduated 2 years ago, and he's already
I know, good for
on to
him.
huge things.
Well, he
Absolutely,
remember he
absolutely.
used to call games here, and he was very good on the mic with our on our show. But he used to call games on the at the basketball games at at Carlson. He's very quick.
He is, and clearly it's because of his experience on Past the Mic that we
Yes,
got him there. That's because of
yeah.
us.
Maybe when he hits it big and he's calling trouble with the snap or that sort of thing, he'll call us in. So
And
be
why do
on
you
the
got to
show.
bring that up?
Or any well, a lot of people say that they that is what's his name, who that's Sean McDonough. I'm saying it's Sean, it's McDonough that made that call. They like him calling the college semifinal. They'd rather have him call the championship. They think
Really?
he's better. They think he's better than the A team.
Who's the A team? Chris Fowler and Herb Street.
Yeah,
So man, Mike Valeni, who's on our wall, he was really going after every single announcer imaginable from the last weekend, college
except
and
for
pro.
Tirico.
Yeah, he didn't go after him. You're right, but he went after, I mean, everybody, and even Chris Fowler. And I've never had a problem
Yeah.
with Chris Fowler. I
No.
just found that a little odd, but
People, I
okay.
think, just want it's a dumb thing to complain about. I mean, Roma was bad in the game, but I mean, it's like, come on, it's still better. People, and again, we talked about this too. They think it's an easy job. Like, oh, I could just get up there and do it. No, you can't. Like, it would be awkward silence. It would be, oh, who is that? We sort of rip on George Blaha and stuff for his age, but it's a very hard job. It's even with monitors and people in your ear and that sort of thing, and finding the right moment to say something, finding the moment not to say something, which is sometimes even better. It's not an easy job. And I'm not just
Not
saying
at
that
all.
because I don't do play by play or anything like that. I'm just calling a PA announcer is very different than a play by play. It would be very hard. And so any of those guys that make it that far, I'm not going to sit there and say they're awful.
Right. And, I got to give you credit, Mike. So I did announcements a few times at Carlson. And over the years, when you're making announcements, whenever I happen to be in the library, I always come to you and really bug you. And you take it like you're a good sport about it, but you also laugh. And, that is not easy to do when you hear yourself on there. And so you're absolutely right about this. And I watched something on Chris Collinsworth once and another Mike Valenti target. The amount of time he puts in a given week, it's beyond a
Yeah.
full-time job. He puts in all the hours imaginable to know. So those guys are really, really, really doing their homework. And I just Valenti, who I do like, I like his commentary. I agree with him far more than I don't. But on this, I just think he's being a blowhard for the purpose of talk radio and ratings.
I just think it's a harder job than people think. So, but no, great feedback. Some people may have said that Mike Vrabel had been used. I didn't go look at the data or the data. So I don't know. I don't care because guess what I'm going to do this week?
Wait, wait. What's the data or the data?
I don't
What
know. It
is?
just depends. Linguistics. I am going to. I'm for sure going to reuse a mic, but I think it's fitting. So Mike Tomlin stepped down as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was in our first. We actually did a batch of mics. If I go back and look at the episode, I think we did 3 because I think we thought we'd do this for like about 15 episodes and be done and never have to worry about running out of mics. So we
Yeah.
threw 3 up. So Mike Tomlin was in our first batch, and I'm going back to make him the mic of the week again. We wrote him. I sent him a letter, hand printed, not handwritten, but typed letter, put in a mailbox, mailed it to Steeler headquarters many years ago, inviting him to be on the show. Maybe I will send him a. I don't. I guess I'd have to send an. He's not big on social media, but 19 seasons, the only coach that my son has known his entire life, which is absolutely crazy. I saw a tweet that came out over the weekend when he was hired. The iPhone 1 was released 5 months later.
Jeez.
The
That,
first iPhone.
that is crazy. Yeah,
And
and George W. Bush, right, would have been president. Is that?
if you look at the footage, the pictures, he almost looks like a different person. He looks
Yeah.
like a baby, like a baby. And I don't think he's going to coach again. I think he's going to be much like Bill Cowher. I wouldn't coach again. if I, some people are saying he's not going to go into TV. He doesn't have to do anything. I guess, it's obviously if you leave like 50 million on the table to walk away. Uh, I think it's a win-win. I personally think he's a great coach. These last few years, he got teams across the line that had no business being in the playoffs or winning a division championship, a NFL division championship. Some of these quarterbacks, Duck Hodges. Look up who Duck Hodges is. He is dating some country singer now. Okay,
It's the name sounds like a player that would have played in the 1950s. Like it really,
I don't
you
even
know.
know. I don't even remember hearing the name in college, but he
No,
won games that led them to a playoff season. All right, Mason Rudolph has
Mason
been
Rudolph, right?
used over and over. You saw what Justin Fields and Russell Wilson did this year. Okay, those were the two last year that drugged them into the playoffs last year.
Now
So
let me plug something about, and if the Pates are listening, Antoine, Max, I'm sure Kent, Sikora, all the old school hip hop fans. So when Tomlin was hired, people thought he looked like Omar Epps, the actor Omar Epps,
yes,
and Omar
house.
Epps, has aged, so they're kind of they're both looking really old, and because we're all getting older, right? But
Yeah,
and it just brings me to my favorite Omar Epps movies, and he was in a lot, but the movie Juice. And my rap aficionados out there, the Juice soundtrack, what an outstanding soundtrack. The movie, it was one of Tupac's first. It was a very, very, very good movie. Kind of unrealistic in a lot of ways, a little corny at the very end, but just when I think of Mike Tomlin, I think of Omar Epps, and I saw it's just funny because you mentioned about Tomlin. I saw Omar Epps not too long ago on a television show. He was on This Is Us, and I just thought, man, I'm getting older because this guy looks really
oh
old.
yeah.
So
19 years. That's
19
absolutely
years.
correct. And three coaches since '68, I think, or whenever Chuck Noll was hired, which is
That's the most incredible part of that. What
yeah.
a amazing franchise that
So
is.
three coaches in my lifetime, one coach in Nate's. So two in Chloe's because Chloe had a little bit of Bill Cowher with her. All right, education topic. It's an election year. Did you know that?
I did.
Midterms, big.
Yeah,
Well, the state of Michigan is a big election year. Our local government, it's all up. House, Senate, and all this big top three state. Governor Whitmer can't run. I saw a story yesterday that says she's hovering around 60% approval. And unless things implode, she'll leave as one of the highest rated governors at the end of her term. And in this day and age, that's crazy
it
in
is.
this
It
in this
is.
modern
Yeah.
political world. So that but I just want to talk to you. What do you see as the election year sort of hot button issues? I saw Mike Duggan just tweeted out this morning his education um, sort of platform, I guess it would be, not in detail, but like this is what he's aiming at. His big thing is he doesn't like, and this is something we've said for years. The school aid fund gets it's sort of like a mix. It's like if you have a savings account at home, right, and you shift money from one place to the other, but maybe you have an account at home that's just supposed to be for your car payments, but if something comes due, you take some out, right, and then you shift. And his claim is this is what happens with the education fund in the state all the time. And I've heard this before from both parties that this is
Sure.
the
Sure.
normal. They've used it. They've shifted money out of it's there's been debate over is the school aid fund supposed to be just K-12 because they've taken money out of that for university. So that's one of his things, which again, I need to read more up on what he wants to do. But what do you see as the big sort of hot topic things? Education only. Let's not solve things in Venezuela or Minnesota. Let's just solve things education nationally and in the state, though.
So I'm going to bring this one to the classroom, and I'm going to start by going all the way back to 2003, if you don't mind, and when the events of the world are trickling into the classroom, and I'm going to bring it home and explain directly answer your question. So in '03, I happened to be at Fordson in Dearborn when we invaded Iraq, and just a little background on Fordson. It is most of the students, 90 mid 90 percentile, are of Middle Eastern descent. Most of that is Lebanese, but there is a high number, a high minority of students from Iraq. And that class of students were kind of like students that had gotten away. I don't want to geek out completely and go into the Sunni Shia divide, stuff like that, but they are folks that had gotten away from Saddam. So they happen to be very happy about the invasion and overthrow. The Lebanese students who had fled Lebanon, for a lot of reasons, but they were a lot more skeptical of Western powers intervening. And so they thought the Iraqi students were blind to what was about to happen. In a sense, I think both groups were right, but it was a very massive divide that trickled into the classroom, and it was a very hot button issue. I don't want to say tense, because I think it was a different world at that time. At that time, I think we could agree without being disagreeable. I don't see that anymore. But that was kind of my first experience with what the events of the world trickling into the classroom and how hot button these situations can become. Now you fast forward to today, the last few years have been super, super politically charged in the classroom. And you have to be very careful about the subjects you bring up. So as soon as you brought this topic up, this was your idea. It was right around the time of January 6th. And I don't talk about it, and I teach a government class and I don't, it might come up in passing, but I just do not talk about it because I'm afraid of where it will end up. And I kind of leave that part out. And this is so the events of the world trickling into the classroom, the hot button issues are just they're immense and they come fully into what goes on in my classroom. So, we had the situation in Minneapolis this past week. And we had a pretty good conversation about it in class. I did bring it up. I thought about it, and this was one I just thought to myself, I have to talk about this because if they don't know this, if this could be their only social studies class, to not bring it up, it really is. I don't want to say malfeasance, but I think I would be a coward in a lot of ways, but you have to be very careful as a teacher. You don't let your own views trickle in, and you just sort of hear what they have to say, present them the facts of the case. So I think that clearly, the national events are going to filter into the classroom as the election draws nearer. What's going on with ICE. It's a lot more sensitive. Kids are reading library books a lot more closely now, and I think all of these things are going to make for a tense next, you know, 9, 10 months, and certainly the next 9, 10 months plus 2 years. So I think that's my forecast of what's to come.
Excellent. I agree with you. I think it's going to be. We're already seeing polling and this sort of stuff. It's going to be a crazy year. It's going to be a crazy year in the state. Michigan's going to have a very unique situation because we're going to have. It looks like, unless something changes, a Republican running for governor, a Democrat, and an independent. We haven't, an independent that's pretty, as I mentioned. I mean, Mike Duggan's the mayor of the largest city.
Yeah, if I may interrupt for 1 second, I do want to tell you this. So I went to the Piston game on Saturday, tough loss. Mike Duggan was there, and they showed him on the big screen, and I was surprised by this because, he's turned off a lot of folks. He got full cheers, and
Well,
so
the polling right now is basically in thirds. I mean, it's not normally when you have a third party independent, it's like they're about 6, 7, 8%, right? And that's not where he is. So it's obvious that this is not it's going to be there. And independents have won governor's races. Jesse Ventura, speaking of Minnesota, won governor as an independent. So it's much more possible on the state level. Especially I think in this day and age. I saw polling the other day that that only 25% roughly 25% roughly identify as Republicans, 25% as Democrats, and that number is much higher now as independents. 30 years ago, that was unheard of. You know
sure,
what I mean?
sure.
So, I see as a big thing, and before all this, sort of like the news, it jumps so quick. Before all this stuff in Minnesota and Venezuela, a lot of the big thing was like a lot of the stuff that I saw, sort of the tea leaves of where politics was going, was complaining about fraud. And part of the reason I think this is the complaint that's going on is because the promise of prices going down on day one is not happening.
No,
Well, gas, but again, it's back to $3 now
it's
today.
about
I saw. So
$3.
because again, let's be clear, the president has nothing to do with gas. Whether it's Obama, Biden, it's called supply and demand, and you can influence a little bit of policy, but whatever. But what I noticed happening before all of these things piled on was there's a lot of complaints about where are my tax dollars going. I'm paying too much in taxes, which I get it. That's what it is, and a lot of that is tied to fraud. And what I feared is that, as we talked about this before, education is part of the taxpayer. It's a big chunk of Michigan's taxes. Um, I fear that people are going to come out and think because there's fraud in this one small situation, or possibly fraud because some guy with a camera goes somewhere in Minnesota or somewhere else, that means there's fraud in every situation. And we are audited so down to the penny. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's going to be a big deal because people are counting their pennies, and well, there's no more pennies anymore, but they're nickels and dimes. every little bit of savings helps. I agree. I don't like I don't like being overtaxed, but I also understand where taxes are. I think that's a big deal. I think AI is going to be a big deal. This is something where Republicans and Democrats agree on, it seems. They're getting very nervous about these data centers that are popping up in their
Hmm.
towns that could eat up a bunch of power. And DT, they're saying, oh, they're not going to cause electricity rates to go up. Okay, sure. Look up, if you're at home, Google
Hmm.
DTE increases over inflation over the last 20 years. That's without the data centers. Okay, so and boy, by the way, can you get your electricity from somebody else, Mike? I thought this is
No, we don't.
capitalist country. I thought,
No, we don't have that
oh,
that option with
there's no
competition.
consumer choice. There's no,
Nope.
no, crazy. Okay, so I think that's going to be a big deal as well. I think those are the big things that are going on. Crystal ball. I don't know. I do think all three candidates for governor are going to go tell the election. I don't think Duggan's going to drop out. I don't. I think especially with his numbers now. I mean, it'll be crazy then because who knows what will happen with that. So good. Anything else you
Yeah.
want to add?
No, I think that's it. It's gonna be a fun ride here, and by fun I mean scary. So
All right, remember to register to vote if you're 18 or going to be 18 by November, and then primaries are up. And now, well, Gilchrist dropped out of the governor's race, so I don't know how much there is on the Democrat side. So, all right, pass the mic. Overrated, underrated this week is the card game. You ready?
let's do it.
Okay, so Dr. Rice got us the card game. Will be two topics. You can go first on the first one, whether this is overrated or underrated. I'll go first on the second one, drawing the card here. Ooh, this is gonna be tough. Might ruffle some feathers. Well, I don't know because no one in my family listens. So, family vacations, overrated or underrated?
Well, you can't ever say overrated to this. This is where you guys get closer together. I think there are aspects of family vacations that can be overrated. There are specific family vacations. Every family has to go to Disney, and then you get to Disney and you look and you go on the rides. Or I'm not sorry. When you get on the bus at the end of the night, all the parents look absolutely miserable and sweaty. But I think those things can be overrated, but they have to be underrated. Bringing families together, I think, is a good thing. So I'm going to say underrated.
I think that's exactly right. And listen, as someone that's probably we're talking about doing something this summer, um, and we're acknowledging we think it's going to be our last one. Chloe's
Wow.
graduating college. And we've traveled a lot, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that my parents traveled a lot. Thankfully, my dad worked in the airline, so it was always part of it. And it wasn't always the biggest thing in the world. And it wasn't always the biggest thing in the world for us. We would sort of do something where we would fly one year, but then maybe drive the next two, because again, we're not, one percenters by any
Right.
means, but we also decided we weren't going to do repeat things. We were going to try to do different things. We were going to drive. We did the famous West Coast road trip that took us all the way out to Idaho, as far west as Idaho, and definitely underrated. And if you're younger and you wanted to lean towards overrated, because it's a lot, and believe me, it's stressful and it's getting everyone where they need to be, and then somebody gets sick and somebody's puking or this or that, and it's stress and it's expensive. But when you get to where I am, you're going to look back and say they were highly, highly underrated. Easy. This is the easiest underrated we've had since I think we started the card game.
Agree. Agree. Well
Right.
said too.
All right. Flipping the card over, biscuits and gravy. Now, I know this is going to be easy for you because sausage gravy, you're a no pork guy. Biscuits and gravy. Listen, we're not going to separate it because I do like biscuits. I like a good biscuit every once in a while. I think biscuits and gravy as a meal is overrated. I don't care for it. It's a mess. Not good for you, really. It's not good for you at all. I mean, it's sausage and fat and this and sort of thing. There are many other breakfast foods. Our southern audience, if we have any, is going to probably be very upset with this. Biscuits and gravy, easy, overrated today.
So Todd Bailey, I think, to the best of my knowledge, is the only Southern audience we have.
Our only
So maybe
person
we get
south of the Mason-Dixon line.
right.
No,
Get,
we have down in Florida. We had him as a guest. Um,
oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh geez. Um, this is old age, man.
I know. I feel awful now.
Anyway, we don't even know he's a regular listener, but now and he
Yeah.
was a great student, and such a nice young. Oh man, we're terrible, Mike. But this kind of lets you know what happens as you get on in
Yes,
your
this is
teaching
fair.
years and
This
you've
is
had
age.
thousands.
We weren't
Right.
planning. Normally we do some show prep, but Max is going to
Sure.
roast us on this. We did an awful job. We're
Correct.
sorry about this.
Biscuits and gravy. Where okay, back on time. Even when I did eat pork, I thought
Steve
biscuits and
Trossel,
gravy
by the
were.
way, and I didn't look that up. It
Oh,
just came to my head. Steve
okay,
Trossel. I'm
well done.
sorry.
Yes.
Yes, the
I
zookeeper.
thought it was overrated even then. I never thought they were any good. I remember
Also, you had it before your
I
pre-nut
did.
pork
I did.
days.
Yes. I remember staying the night at a friend's house whose mom was from the South, and they were so
She made it.
excited about this. I had never heard of it before. I was like in fourth or fifth grade, and I was like, man, this is not very good. And one of those moments where you kind of have to eat something because you have to be polite, where, oh, wow, this is awesome. And I'm just like, man, I hope I never have to eat this again. So way overrated. I hope Tim Sweeney isn't listening either because it was his mom.
Um, so let's see, it was I think Kate's Kitchen is the place around here that's most famous for it, most well known, and that's because they make great biscuits. So you can still go to Kate's Kitchen, get a biscuit with your breakfast. I like I said, when I go to Piper's or Cracker Barrel, I always get biscuits. So plain biscuits, I'm all about. And Bojangles, depending on how Todd Bailey wants me to say it, that's delicious, delicious once they're finally up here.
Quick question about Cracker Barrel, since you're a fan. Were you up in arms about the logo change?
Nope,
You
did not care.
that didn't get to you.
What's
Okay,
the
just
term?
curious.
Isn't it snowflake?
Yeah, is that
I
that?
was literally lots of snowflakes outside. No, I
Yeah.
wasn't. Whatever they want to do, it doesn't bother me. All right, hot mic take. What do you got this week?
So I came across, not across, for like a song, and I do this every once in a while. I always liked rap music, old school rap music, because I felt like I was learning something, and the social aspect of it was so intriguing to me as a young person. And now, as I'm a little bit older, a lot bit older, I can appreciate it even more. I remember the late great Eazy-E saying, "We're reporters from the streets." And I think that was spot on. And again, looking back on it now, you look at things like the 1992 LA riots, and you just look at the music that came out right before it. Man, this stuff was predicted in the lyrics, right? And so that was the personalization of old school hip hop music. On a personal level, I came across the song, again, a song I've always liked, but I just had more time to reflect on it at this point. "Against the Wind" by Bob Seger. And there's three like stanzas to the song. The first one is about a woman he was with before, Janie, and they were young and in love, and by the way, Janie was lovely. She was the queen of my nights. The first time that hit me, I was actually 22, watching a movie with Kevin Costner called "For Love of the Game," and that song comes on in the movie, and I'm with this girl. We'll call her Lisa, but I was still kind of like hooked into an old love named Mary, and I'm like, man, he nailed that part. So I'm 22. I'm like, God, he really nailed that part. So that's the first part, and he closes the part with, "Wish I didn't know what I didn't know then." That's the famous line in the song. The
Hmm.
second part is about, you're going through I imagine your 30s, and years roll slowly past. He finds himself alone, and he's surrounded by strangers he thought was his friends. I don't know if you've ever felt this, but from time to time in my life, I've been there. And then the last part is where I think I'm at, or we're at now, where your days are, we're a little bit older now, and we are in careers and deadlines and commitments and those type of things. And what a personal song. I think it's absolutely amazing. So my hot mic is two parts related to this. Number one, I want to know, and I think this is where Mr. Gary Bailey will probably have something really good to offer. I want to know other songs like this that are so personal. Art imitates culture, so I know there's a lot more out there. There's a few others I could think of, but man, "Against the Wind" is just it's life in all the stages. And now that being 47, I could certainly relate and understand all three stages a lot more than I could at 22, where it was just about Mary at that point. And second, I think we need Bob to do a fourth part to the
A
song
fourth
now.
verse.
Yeah, I do. And I think it'd be pretty cool because I want to know what's coming. And you could hear it from people who are that age, obviously, but Bob Seger does such an amazing job. This is such an amazing song.
I think
I
America
always
already
like,
did. I think America already did it. It's called "Dust in the Wind."
no, that's way down the road. I'm talking about
Oh,
the period.
well, I'm just telling you what's coming
I'm
next.
talking about the part in between that,
Oh,
though.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
You got all morbid, man.
All we are is dust in the
Do you think we could get
wind.
Bob Seger on the show? Maybe we'll do that and just
I'll
ask
try.
Bob.
Well, I'm going to try Mike Tomlin. We'll see. Or, who knows? Maybe if the Lions win this
Oh,
game.
listen, it just reminded me of something. I forgot to mention Wally. We had talked about the Lions fan who who provoked DK Metcalf, and Wally commented, "We sound like Kramer," trying to get Kramer on Seinfeld, trying
Yeah.
to bring up a bunch of controversy on the show. So I
Yeah,
thought that
that's
was,
true. Yeah, we were going to bring everyone in together. Well,
yes,
that's all done now. So
yeah, yeah.
it's old news. And
Okay.
Metcalf had a big drop in the Houston game, so he's probably still thinking about that blue haired guy. All right, hot mic take I got since we did election year stuff. I'm gonna go with this. So we see what's happening in Minneapolis. When it was breaking that day, it amazes me and I'm gonna connect sports to this. We are so quick to criticize, like the line, like I think of the lot both. I mean, as a Steeler fan, obviously on Mike Tomlin's case, on DK Metcalf's tape, did a dumb thing. There's whole methods, talk radio to get on, complain about this, and there's people that root for the Lions and root for the Steelers are from all political aspects, apolitical, extreme right, extreme left, in the middle. That's not part of being a fan, right? Like there's no, this is this team, you're this, so and people will criticize, right, when the team makes bad decisions, bad draft picks, goes and grabs a fan from the crowd. It's amazing to me in the political world that we can't have a gray area like that with things that a lot of people can't. All right. And I'll just use the Minneapolis thing as an example. Within hours of that happening, terms like domestic terrorists were being thrown around, murdered was being thrown around, all sorts of things being thrown around. Um, I'm sitting there and like, people are getting this from just watching a 30-second video on X, not body cam footage, not this or that. And there were people already backed into their corners saying this or that. I'm still like weeks out, and I still think like, okay, I live in a world where this person probably made a bad choice, but also I live in a world where a federal agent shot somebody 3 times in the face, where my local police probably have a little more restraint with something like this. I think politically, you can sit there and say, yes, you probably shouldn't, if someone, you shouldn't swerve a car at somebody or even make it look like it, but you also should expect federal forces that are going into towns to have some training and be able to handle themselves and know that there's an investigation this happens here in Brownstown with Brownstown police. The state police aren't just going to come and say, oh, there's no investigation. The cops clear to go, immunity. No, the state police are going to hold an investigation, right? Like that's what's going to happen no matter who's the governor. That's what's expected. And I just hope that we can get into a world where your candidate doesn't dictate how you feel about every news story, I guess is the way I want to put it. And I don't know if we can. I know I can. I know I can. I know I can. I sat there with Biden. I sat there with Obama. And I sat there with George W. Bush. There were choices and decisions that were made that I sat there and said, wasn't the best thing, wasn't the, but I feel there's a lot of people that can't. I don't know why it is. They can criticize Dan Campbell going for it on fourth down. They're still a Lions fan, but they can't find themselves to at least sit there and say, man, I don't know, shooting a mother in the face 3 times is pretty rough.
I first off, I'm going to push back on one thing. I think a lot of sports fans can't do that right now, and Michigan Lions,
Okay, you're
and
right. You're right. There's always the chunk.
sure,
Again, there's the chunk that are always, there is a chunk of those that can't ever, Bob Wojnarowski with U of M. All right, we'll throw it out there.
right,
Like,
right, right, right.
there's those people. You're right. So we're always gonna have a chunk of that. But
And
it
I'm
seems to
not.
me that
Oh, go ahead,
there's a
go ahead.
much bigger population that can't do this at all with their quote unquote candidate, whoever it may be.
And I wasn't trying to push back. I think it's just a symptom. I wasn't trying to push back on you to be argumentative. I was trying to say I don't know if we're there in any facet of life right now, and I think all of these things are symptoms of that. I do think our political leaders, and this could be a bipartisan thing as well, certainly contribute to this. Within hours of this happening, you're right, the word domestic terrorist was thrown out. I want to bring up one other thing that back from the original discussion, just because you brought up this scenario. I really had a hard time this week, and I'm going to be very careful with what I say. A student in particular had mentioned that you know, wanted, she doesn't believe that unjust laws have to be obeyed. And I understand that sentiment. and peacefully, of course, and the nonviolent civil disobedience. And I just said to her, I could see that she is going the activist route, and I said, I think it's important. I think your parents would also say, though, you need to come home safely, and she pushed back on me and said that attitude is kind of with that attitude, no unjust laws would have ever changed. And it was a outstanding point that she made. I stand by what I said to her before, but that's kind of like just again letting the listener know what's sort of filtering into the classroom. I didn't give all the details about what was said because I can't, but that's what's going on right now, and it really, I want the fact that we are so quick to go to our corners is certainly filtering into the classroom in that way as well, and we really have to be careful. This is it's a scary time right now, no doubt.
It just surprises me because I think I mentioned this before to you in the passing conversation. I think Trump wins in 2020 if he um, says, COVID's awful. Let's get through this. We have a vaccine that's coming through, which he did do some of this. He's like, let's get money out to people. But then he got sort of pulled into this thing of it's phony, it's this or that. And I think he wins re-election easily if he just sort of rides this out and says, hey, we can get through this together as a country. Decided not to go that route. And I sort of look at this and I'll be like, all they had to come out, like Vance doesn't have to come out. Trump really didn't say anything. Vance did all the barking.
Hmm.
But like, come out and say this is a tragedy. We need to our ICE agents need to be safe, but we need to find out what went wrong.
Yeah,
This agent has been taken off the force. He's gonna, just like anytime there's a police involved shooting, right? What do you hear? This person's been put to desk duty. We're gonna have a
sure,
whole investigation.
sure.
Let's keep things safe. But that's not the route that went. And so what happened is then I don't like if I was the political leader, that's how I would have handled it. Even if I was the one with putting these agents out there, I would have said, but I guess that's not the way that things want to be done. And to me, that's it. And again, it's not saying that the guy is guilty or innocent, it's saying like, but no, we're deciding 2 hours in and this is how
Yeah.
it's going to be. And everyone's fighting on Facebook. It's just crazy to me. And again, me sitting here at my computer or my tablet, I don't have enough information to pass judgment.
No, and it's crazy because it's
But
almost like
a lot of other people sure do. A lot of
no.
other people feel they're a judge.
So there was a post on Facebook at a local elementary where a person came with an F. So I won't even say what it was
Yeah,
because I don't want, but F something sign, right?
not forget.
And this was I don't think she intended it to be political, but it just went. You read the comments, foolishly on my part, it became people itching for a fight. I think people
Yeah.
want this fight right now,
And
and
that's me. And,
it's
and where I am right now, I don't want it. I don't read it. Like I'm not trying to sway anyone's opinion. I'm not trying to sway anyone to vote. I'm just saying how I see it. And more, I'm like, I'm detached. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for who I want to. I think is going to do a better job. But you're not going to change me. I don't need to hear your input on it. I don't need to hear MSNBC's input. I don't need to hear Sean Hannity's input. I don't care. I'm 50 years old. I can make my own decisions. The Facebook post I posted today said, I'm moving on from TikToks of people running to cruise ships late to people having accidents and automated car washes. That's the joy I'm bringing into my life. That's what I'm dealing with. But that's just my point. All I'm saying is pause, pump the brakes. I think we've said this many times on the show. Pump the brakes,
the
and
brakes.
sometimes your opinion's not even really needed. Really, in all honesty, like Gary Bailey says,
Like
who
Gary Bass,
cares?
who cares what you
Who
think?
cares what you think? All right. Do you want to pick the college championship game? I was going to do this. We don't need to get in every division playoff game. I was going to say pick the college championship game. And right now with the division games to go, who is it doesn't mean I'm not saying this is a lock in, but who's your favorite for the NFC and AFC in the Super Bowl? So go ahead. College championship game first. Miami versus our Big Ten representative, Indiana.
I'm going to go Miami to pull the upset. I
Whoa,
think
look at
it
you.
it has just gone too well for Indiana. This cannot possibly continue. It's really one of the most amazing stories in college sports ever. Now it's a different era now, a different world with the transfer portal and everything else. But nevertheless, this radical shift that has taken place, I just it's stunning. And so but I can't believe it's going to continue. So I'm picking Miami in the upset.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Indiana. I just don't think the ACC is that good. And I think that's part of my main reason. So I think the Big Ten is much better, and Indiana's faced better teams. So, all
Okay.
right, who is your AFC representative of the teams that are left?
I'm going Buffalo Bills. It's Josh Allen's time. I think it's they struggled on, so they almost lost to the Jags, but the Jags had that kind of team of destiny feel that there's a certain NFC team that kind of has that same feel right now. Although I'm not going to pick them, but the Bills pulled that one out, and I think they're gonna run the. I'm picking them to win the whole thing, but
Okay,
they're going to
so
win the NFC.
before I started the show, that's who I penciled in, and then when I got to this segment, before you said that, I changed mine. I'm going to New England.
Okay.
And I honestly thought I texted somebody that Pittsburgh beat Houston, which I didn't think was going to happen at all. Like I had Pittsburgh, of course, I said that about Baltimore too, but I didn't really see them beating. I think the defense was just. I had them having a better shot versus New England. I think they just matched up better with them. They beat them earlier in the year. They turned Drake May over a bunch of times. I just think they could move the ball on New England where I don't think they were like what happened. But I think New England with who is left, I think they're going to beat Houston. And I think that Buffalo will end up going back there. They split the season. I think that, and really they had Buffalo beat the second time. I think they're going to pull it off, which is crazy to me. And I was always a New England hater, but Mike Vrabel's great. NFC, who do you got?
Again, the Bears have that team of destiny feel. And the team that I'm actually going to pick has sort of given me concern recently, but I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to go with the Rams. So the Rams are going to obviously beat the Bears, and
So
then
you're going to have the Rams winning in this. See, I'm going with the Bears. I think there's just they remind me of that Steeler team with Jerome Bettis. That not only are they good, things are just falling into
they
place.
are, they are.
And unlike the Steeler team, the Steelers had to go on the road the entire
Hmm.
time through the playoffs. The Bears don't even have that. And, if San Francisco somehow beats Seattle, the NFC Championship game could be in Chicago, which would be crazy. I don't think the 49ers are. They're just so depleted. I don't want to ever hear a Lions fan talk about injuries ever again when you got San Francisco a game out of the NFC Championship game with pieces held together with duct tapes.
Yeah, yeah, I get it, and I agree. I mean, it does feel like that way. Now, it is still odd to me, if I'm not mistaken. The Rams had a better record than the Bears, correct?
Yeah, I think
I
by a game. Like,
Yeah, I know why they do this, but I just at this point, shouldn't the team with the better regular season record get the home field?
no, because it's not. You don't play everybody. Like you don't play. It's not the
I
same schedule.
I understand that. We'll see. I'm not as anti. I'm certainly not anti Ben Johnson like a lot of Lions fans. So this has nothing to do with that. And I am pulling for Stafford. Not like Kelly Warren. I'm not going to be cheering like we won the Super Bowl if he wins, but I am pulling for him. So
All right. All right. Well, hey, everybody, we hope you have a great week. Stay warm. We were very fortunate. Nice snow day today. So we were able to record this and get this out for everyone on the 16th. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.